Ayubowan, Vanakkam. I'm Vayoni Dimel. This is Boston Lanka News, bringing you news, views and entertainment from Boston and USA. Vesak celebrations at the United Nations in New York, organized by the Sri Lankan mission. Economist turned parliamentarian shares his views on how Sri Lankan economy can be improved. Sri Lanka Embassy in Washington, D.C. entertains more than 2,500 visitors in one day. The first Sri Lanka Schools Rugby Festival kicks off in New York. In an era where the world is darkened by multiple conflicts and natural and man-made calamities, the Lord Buddha's message of non-violence, understanding, compassion and peace is powerfully relevant. The United Nations celebrated the International Day of Vesak on Monday, the May 7th at the UN General Assembly Hall. The UN's General Assembly in 2000 formally recognized the International Day of Vesak. Now the International Day of Vesak is commemorated annually at the United Nations headquarters and its worldwide offices. The unique feature being that each year a different permanent mission to the United Nations hosts the event. This year, Vesak Day was commemorated with a series of events organized by the Permanent Mission of Sri Lanka to the United Nations in New York with the assistance of other missions. Interestingly, the decision to agree to celebrate the Vesak as Lord Buddha's birthday was formalized at the first conference of the World Fellowship of Buddhists held in Sri Lanka in 1950, although festivals at this time in the Buddhist world are a centuries-old tradition.
After Buddhism faded in the land of its birth, Sri Lanka became the center of Buddhist learning. The ancient capital, Anuradhapura, was a magnet for Buddhist scholars and pilgrims. Sri Lanka continues to host the tooth relic of the Buddha in Kandy and attracts thousands of pilgrims from around the world. Over the centuries, Sri Lanka also dispatched missionaries to distant lands such as Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, China and Japan. And records of their journeys provide valuable historical insights to the times.
Following the special commemorative event in the General Assembly Hall, cultural performances were held at the visitors' lobby. The day The day concluded with a food festival hosted by the organizing member states representing delicacies from over 19 nations. Developing country researchers have got to go abroad to get PhDs, be able to integrate with the system, understand it, and then come back and share that knowledge, says Dr. Harsha De Silva, a leading economist and a UNP MP who is a vocal critic of the government of Sri Lanka. Dr. De Silva, after receiving his PhD in economics at the University of Missouri in USA, returned to Sri Lanka to work as the chief economist and treasurer of the country's largest development bank, declining employment offers in North America. Dr. De Silva, when you were doing your PhD at the University of Missouri, I understand that you got really interested in agriculture and how the family owned farms use the technology to increase productivity. Could you please share some of those experiences in USA?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting period of my life, in the Midwest, Columbia, Missouri, cold place, um, farmland and so on. I remember how I sat in the first large combine harvester and saw how a farm of 600 acres was managed by one small family, which is, completely foreign to the thinking that we had at that time, and how technology ought to be used to create efficiencies in agriculture. And I have, in my spare time, done quite a bit of work on it. So what I think is the problem with agriculture. Of course, there are multiple issues at the policy level. We have archaic laws that don't let small farmers combine farmland. So you have, three quarters of an acre, quarter of an acre, half an acre plots, but you can't employ technology. Even smaller combine harvesters or other technology with such small plots of land. So you need to be able to amalgamate land. In order to do that, land laws have to be changed. Then again, there are laws in this country where on paddy land you can't grow anything else. Whether you like it or not, you have to grow paddy. Even if you can't make enough money off paddy, you have to do that. But at the individual level, at the farm level, we have a huge problem of asymmetry of information. Farmers don't know what to farm. Farmers don't know where to sell. Farmers don't know how much to plant. And what happens in developed countries is agricultural markets are very efficient. So the price signal works well. You have futures markets, you have forwards markets, and you know in advance what you ought to produce. But if you look at Sri Lanka, suddenly you will have a glut of tomatoes. And the other day we saw in the papers that some 25 tons of produce was thrown to the elephants, or some large amount like that. Then suddenly, next time around, prices go up. So what we are trying to do is use mobile phones, which now almost everyone in this country has one, to get that information exchange to happen. So we have a system where these are all CSR things. We don't make any money out of it. Where we capture prices at markets in Sri Lanka, and to registered farmers, we push the prices so they can make some informed decisions.
You have gone on record saying that the UNP government, if given a chance, could put the economy on the right track. Could you tell us how?
Yeah, I mean, one must look at the past to make an assessment of the future. UNP has proven beyond reasonable doubt that it is capable of putting in place policies that can make this country grow. I don't know how many people remember that before 77, people in fact had to sift for food in garbage cans. 77 created a watershed brought the market economy, did wonders in this country, whether it is from Rantabe to Victoria to all the irrigation projects, the hydroelectricity projects, the 1 million housing projects, the infrastructure, the roads projects, the airports, the ports, education, health. I mean, all of these things were really, implemented by the UNP, and no one can say otherwise. That shift from what we call the Hindu rate of growth of 3.5% to a 6% growth was created by the UNP. Then in 2001, when the UNP last took office, the economy was in negative territory. It was the UNP within a year that brought the growth rate up to 4%. So we have done and we have shown this country that it is possible for us to do. And again in the future, we have a very good team of people, people who know what they are talking about, not jokers who say, look, you can survive with 2,500 rupees a day, or other jokers who say, don't buy anything from overseas, let us grow our own food and let us stitch our own clothes and do whatever it is internally. Not jokers, but we have people with credentials who can design, develop and implement policies within a market framework for this country to grow. And we believe that the only way we can do that is by plugging ourselves to the rest of the world, not unplugging Sri Lanka from the rest of the world. Because our market is too small, with 20 million people, there is nothing we can really do. We don't have a domestic economy like China, Brazil, India or Russia. We have to export. And we'll have to come up with strategies to do that. And the UNP is willing and able to do so when given a chance.
Passport DC began this weekend with a round-the-world embassy tour in Washington, D.C. This month-long celebration of international culture will take visitors and residents on a global journey through Washington, D.C. On Saturday, May 5th, the Around-the-World Embassy Tour started with more than 40 embassies representing 6 continents. Sri Lankan Embassy was one of the 40 embassies that opened its doors for visitors to receive a rich cultural experience of Sri Lanka. Over 2,500 visitors toured the embassy premises on that day. The inaugural Sri Lanka Schools Rugby Festival, hosted by St. Thomas's College New York City Foundation, will be held in New York on Saturday, May 12th to raise funds for charitable projects in Sri Lankan schools. The festival will kick off with a rugby tournament under New York City lights at 7:30 p.m. We spoke to Thikshan Arulampalam, a trustee of STC NYC and head of the organizing committee, to find out more.
STC NYC decided to host this event to bring together a lot of schools that we used to compete with back in Sri Lanka. We have 7 schools that have confirmed their participation, and we hope that they will revive their old school rivalries and friendships. And happy to note that there will be schools from Isipatana, Ananda, Royal, St. Peter's, St. Joseph's, Trinity, St. Thomas's. I hope I've covered them all. And also, to give you a little bit about the organization, STC NYC is a group of people who went to St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia, St. Thomas's Prep, St. Thomas's Bandaramala, and Gurutalawa, and the alumni have come together here in New York City and surrounding areas to for a worthy cause, if I may say that. And if I may add one final note, if your listeners or viewers would like to be there, those who are listening to it from New York City, we are at Pier 40 in Manhattan. It's probably the first time that an event of this nature will be held under light, and the entrance is free. It will go from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. So we look forward to seeing as most of you can be there.
The Rugby Festival is sponsored by the Sri Lankan Airlines, the national carrier of Sri Lanka. That concludes our news edition. We meet you again with another news edition of news, views and entertainment from Boston and USA. Till then, goodbye.